Ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn all over the internet and indeed the world. Welcome to the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. Tonight's guest is none other than the lovely Diane Berkowitz joining me. Diane, how are you doing this evening?
Hello, you found me.
I did, yeah, it did take us a little bit. Boy, oh boy, but we got it up and running. We're sounding good, and we're
Cool.
going to reflect on some good times.
Sounds great.
Diane, we go back to college. Although we're both from Long Island, we didn't meet until we were both kind of attending York College.
Right.
I've said in previous talks that kind of what sent me to York was a writing program that didn't necessarily funnel you into journalism or uh, trying to convince you that you were the next great American novelist. It was a very practical major for me. And that's what sent a Long Island dude out to York, Pennsylvania. For your
hmm
part, tell me about what brought you, a Long Island girl, what made York kind of a fit for you?
So I visited a bunch of campuses around Long Island, and I went to one upstate because, as you know, like all the state schools are all like 8 hours upstate, cold, like it's like, yay, I get to be away from home, but also I'm with like everyone I went to high school with, which wouldn't have been a bad thing, but you know. So me and my friend Danny drove down to York with his dad, and we saw the campus, and it was beautiful. I haven't really been to Pennsylvania too much, and I felt like it was still far away, but close enough, like closer than a SUNY school.
Yeah,
And it just like felt nice and cozy, and I felt like I could see myself there. And what do you know?
there it is. And then there you went.
The nursing program really pulled me in because it was like they only accepted 100 students a year, and I had gotten into like Stony Brook and University of Buffalo for nursing, but I just wanted to try somewhere new.
Of course. And York was an exceptional program for that. To this day, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Right on. Um,
Oh, I
Diana,
ended up becoming a
though,
rec
um,
therapist.
what's
So I said I did end up switching to become a recreation therapist, which I'm so happy that my path took me there.
yes. Oh, believe me, that's like number three on my little itinerary.
All right, I'm gonna stop.
No, 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 please. I don't want. No, 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 no. I love it. I love it.
The lag of like the interruption, so don't worry.
No, no. Um, so Diane and I didn't meet there on Long Island, and we didn't even necessarily meet walking around kind of the campus of York College. Where we met was getting to know each other through the on-campus a cappella group, Rhapsody. At the risk of posing a similar question to you, Diane, describe to me what kind of pulled you into Rhapsody and maybe how it felt to kind of break in and, kind of getting to know some of the people that, we're blessed enough to have in common.
Sure. Well, I so I joined Rhapsody as a sophomore because I auditioned as a sophomore, which was your freshman year. So what pulled me into Rhapsody was in high school, I was involved in all the extra choirs, and I loved choir. I loved being in the musicals, like, and I always liked a cappella music from some of like my choir days. And I I was just drawn to learning music that was like contemporary-ish music with other people, and it was just something new to try.
Right on. And so you went for it and you were in. And what I always say, at the risk of dating myself a little bit, like when we got into Rhapsody, it was right before Glee and all that stuff, like kind of made it hit. You know what I'm saying? It was right
It
before,
was right before what?
right before Glee.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
like there was no like mainstream like acapella music is something you want to be involved in. It was a very kind of niche thing that you had to,
Right.
you know, really want to break into. So I mean, I'm always going to give myself and indeed us kind of credit for getting in before kind of the rest of the world to an
Oh
extent.
yeah.
Always a good feeling.
Plus, we got to meet people just like us. It wasn't like a serious, like, it was student run, which I thought was great because there was that like lack of pressure being put on you from like the institution. Instead, it was like, collaborative pressure to do good together. It was like a very big, like, everyone had their part to make it work together, which I loved.
And that was reflected both in the sound we created, and I also I love kind of the diverse kind of tracks that kind of resulted from all of us having influence on like not only what songs we sing but how we sing them. Yeah, man, it was just really, there are songs I never would have heard, that were popular on the radio at the time that I never would have even known about if it wasn't for
Mhm.
walking down there in that Wolf Hall basement and hearing what people were working on, man. Truly, truly special times. Not to mention any and all of the laughs and good memories. Beautiful.
Yeah.
On a related note, I have to say, like, quick little sequester. One of the first songs that I ventured to arrange was "Walking on the Moon" by the Police, and it was a little kind of rough to start, but mostly because you know to an extent, I'm a musician. I'm not gonna look you in the eye and say like I'm not at all, but I'm also not really. Oh, it's in this key, and therefore the harmonies are this, this, and that.
Oh yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so,
Right.
so it took a little while for the song that I arranged to kind of hit a stride, and I have to say that one of my favorite memories of Rhapsody, and probably the one memory of Rhapsody that I'll pull for the rest of my life, is the first time we sang that song and it swung and it finally sounded good and finally like, and it was my fault to be clear, but finally the group had like picked up what I was trying to put down. And then after,
Right.
I'll never forget, clear as a bell, you were like, you said, everybody was kind of like, and you said like, that sounded different that time. POY, everyone.
I loved that song. That was like the only Police song I didn't even know that song and I'm like, "Oh, it's the Police." And I totally loved it. I felt so like this like reggae vibe. I felt like we added like a reggae flair to it somehow.
Yeah, yeah. The song certainly has like hints of that, and that's what I'm saying. Like the freedom of everybody kind of being collaborative together, as we were able to kind of lean into what we wanted to, and basically just create whatever we wanted. But yeah, man, it was a special time, and believe me, it would have felt special no matter what, because finally, a song that I arranged was sounding good for the first time in like a week and a half. But I'll never forget for as long as I live. It's the POY, everyone, and that of course stood for proud of you.
Sounds like me.
Oh man,
Yeah.
what a special memory for me. I appreciate that.
That is great.
Um, on a related note, probably from the self-made abbreviations, our listeners are picking up that Diane is definitely a unique energy and spirit, and certainly one that I was very fortunate to be around for as long as I was, and certainly to this day. But in college, it was like every day, which is cool. And what I've always kind of considered us to have in common, certainly not the same spirit, and I think you would attest to that. It's not like we're one and the same, but I feel like you and I both kind of have this attitude, whether it's conscious or not, that like, yeah, man, I kind of walk to the beat of my own drum, but I got an extra drum here for you if you want to join me,
Oh yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
I always kind of appreciated that in you because I appreciate that in people, and it definitely added a flavor to not only Rhapsody, but certainly, anytime we were hanging out together as a group or smaller group, et cetera, et cetera. Can you tell me about, first of all, do you think that's kind of a fair assessment of your character and personality? And secondly, what I'd love to hear about as kind of a caveat to that, you mentioned your transition to the rec and leisure major. Can you talk about how that's kind of translated into your career? Because as much as I'm sure you worked your ass off to get to where you're at, I also have to believe that a big part of one, your passion for what you do and your success in what you've done has been due to kind of that mindset. So I'd love to hear a little more from that about that, as much as I feel like I threw a lot at you all at once.
Well, it's a great question. And again, thanks for saying that about me. And I agree, we both are very much our own people. And we always got a seat next to us like, oh yeah, you want to join? Come on, let's do it. Let's try, come on. Oh, you like weird shit? Well, try this weird shit with me. Come on. Like, I'm always down to like have people try new things.
Right.
So as I'm sure you know, I'm very persistent. Like if
Yeah.
I know I like an activity, I'm like, okay, I tried this. Now I need everyone to experience it because it made me feel great. And I want everyone else to feel great, which also helps me a lot in my career because my career is quality of life. So, Rhapsody was, and like that community aspect of it really just like made me feel like, feeling a part of something really makes you feel secure. You don't realize how people walk through life just feeling so insecure and afraid to say things and whatnot. And I mean, I have to say, like, we let our freak flags fly hard in Rhapsody. Everyone was weird as hell. No one cared. And we were like, oh, wow, you're weird, I'm weird. Great, let's all do things, right? So, hold on, my computer just gave me some weird notice. All right, so, okay, my transition from nursing to rec, it was very weird because, I love nursing, I love medical field, and recreation was like, it's like I tripped into it. It was like I was meant to be there. When I found out really what it was, because I didn't know what it was, I had no idea recreation therapy, what's that? I didn't even think like what everyone else thinks is like, oh, it's bingo. Well, it's more than bingo.
Sure.
Although bingo is a really great game and a lot of cuties love that. But some of the people aren't cute when they play it. They like, if I say the wrong number or if I'm like B80, well, 80 is not actually a bingo number, but they'll be like, that's the wrong number. Or like, like I'll say the wrong thing and they'll be like, you called that one already. And I'm like, oh, sure. Okay. And I stick it in the thing. But, just, I feel like a lot of my personality was nurtured through being a part of a group of people that were just so accepting. Mm-hmm. And it really helped me develop as a person for sure, because we all had each other's back, kind of.
Absolutely.
I think I lost your question though, if you can see.
And so no. You definitely kind of that. It's cool that Rhapsody and being part of a group has kind of given you kind of the roots and the strength to branch out and kind of share that with other people. And I wanted to hear about how that impacted your career. But I mean, by all means, I think you covered it as long as.
Well, okay. Let me go back though, because I was fixated for a minute. It helps my career because, okay. So from being from Long Island, I never was exposed to people that were different in a different way, and that's where in college you see how other people live and how they've made it this far, kind of a thing. Yeah. So it was like, you're from Long Island. But I never would have thought, you were a Long Island guy, because, we're not like your typical Long Islanders, I would say.
Right. No doubt. I say coffee and talk,
I mean, of course. I mean, the accent's there, let's be real. But it's funny because, sometimes when I'm doing a group, and I'm singing a million songs, and I come over a song and I'm like, oh yeah, this Walking on the Moon song, I sang this in my a cappella group in college. Yeah, I was in an a cappella group. So it's kind of just I'm cool, and the old people are just all right, not surprised.
No doubt.
You know, they don't want to give me a microphone even though we have an auditorium. And I'm like, if you give me the mic, I'm never giving it back. And I just talk, talk, talk. So,
Well, cool. Right on. I know. I try not to talk about what's actually going on here in the world during these shows, but I know that I was saying a little bit before we talked, but I know that there's great value in what you do, and I know that you know that passion that you have for it, both during these times and before, and hopefully soon to come after. I think it's very clear that your heart is on your sleeve, and there's a great deal of passion and effort that goes into what you do, and I give you a lot of credit. Sure do.
thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice of you.
Speaking of bringing people in and inviting people into new kind of experiences and traditions, I'm very blessed to say throughout my whole life, or certainly at least since like middle school, I've had a great deal of a lot of Jewish friends. So much so that me and my buddies used to play an open mic at the Velvet Lounge, and we were just called the Hebrews. And I was the only person that wasn't Jewish in the group, but it wasn't like I was going to be, I'm not going to raise my hand and say, like, actually, it's the Hebrews and Tom, like, no, man, we're the Hebrews. Why not, but that said, as much as I spent my whole life surrounded by Jewish people that I care for quite a bit, even when I went to some events, family events at their house, it was very warm and very welcoming and inviting. Don't get me wrong. I love those people. I love their families. But it was very much, first you do this, thanks for coming. Then you do this, thanks for coming. And there wasn't necessarily an explanation for what we were doing. Now, weirdly enough, I know that you and I have Bubby's boarding house in common. So
Oh my God. Bubby's boarding house. I'm dead.
Oh man, I don't know what. Bubby's boarding house was a children's program about Jewish traditions, and for some reason, as a kid, I really enjoyed watching it, even though we weren't Jewish. And my parents were awesome enough, but to say
It was like Jewish, like Sesame Street.
yeah, exactly. And dude, so there were a lot of Bubby's boarding house things that I watched, and so I was never a stranger to kind of Jewish traditions. As a matter of fact, it probably took more explanation for me to realize that those traditions weren't mine, But anyway, the flip side of that, as much as I have Jewish friends that I love and care about more than words could say, it took getting to know your family in college, who used to come for kind of seders and bring workbooks and music and almost, I want to say, coloring books one year, in addition to the cuisine of for the ceremony and things like that. I don't know if there's much of a story to tell, but I do want to at least kind of emphasize and appreciate that you and your family were always very hands-on and kind of including the Rhapsody folk and even people outside of Rhapsody. Just our group of friends. It was certainly wider than Rhapsody.
Yeah.
In kind of those traditions and making sure that we were not only enjoying the traditions, but were well informed about what we were doing. Do you have anything to add to that? I'm not trying to force a story where there isn't.
No. That's like such a great memory that I have of when we had Passover at my country club apartment, and we were all just like sitting around in a huge circle. I think my dog was there. I don't know if we had drums or something too. I feel like we may have had extra instruments or something.
I'm sure we scrounged some stuff up, by all means.
Yeah, it was great to like just include people, especially because, in a traditional like Passover Seder, you invite everyone, like, because everyone should have a place at your Seder kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it was great. I'm glad you remember that.
Oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't miss it, man. It's right up there with Bubby's boarding house, Right.
I know. Authentic, man.
Tremendous stuff. Diane, also a great deal of our memories outside of Rhapsody, outside of just hanging out. Like, good lord, dude. Yeah, it makes it sound like all we did was sing and do satyrs, but we sure did do some other college stuff as well. We'll say, but we also saw a lot of shows together, which is cool. Some of the ones that come to mind. My first time seeing Modest Yahoo was with you, Melissa, Corey, I think his name is. Unfortunately, I don't think I really keep in touch with him.
Yep.
Corey. I know Brett was there, but got sick, which is unfortunate. I don't know why I remember that.
Yeah, he got sick. I remember that.
Yeah, he just his stomach. Anyway, I remember going to that show. That's one show where I had next to no expectations. I really didn't. And by the end of the night, I was just like, that's incredible. I need a copy of that. Like, when is the next time Modest Yahoo is coming to town? And we got to meet him after the show, which was so tremendous. I got my hat signed. I still have my hat signed by him up there.
That's amazing.
Follow up on Modest Yahoo in just a second. But low key, one of my favorite memories of that night, in addition to just being pleasantly surprised and blown away by the Modest Yahoo show. Do you remember the Flowbots opened up that night, right? And
yeah.
So when they came out, do you remember there were like two guys in the back that like, there was nobody that was like not into the Flowbots, but there were two guys in the back that were just like, Flowbots, yeah, fight with tools, which is the name of their album, and they're just shouting, and the whole time we're just like, all right, I guess, you know, like, it should be good, right on. And the Flowbots play, and they play great. And lo and behold, a couple months later, I was in Vermont during the X Games, and the Flowbots were going to play a song a quick set at the X Games. And so while we were at the X Games real quick, we walked over to the Flowbot stage, and because we're at the X Games, nobody's really there for the music, you know?
Right.
And so I got the chance to be that guy in the back that was like, Flowbots, yeah, fight with tools. And I'll never forget, it's like the full circle moment. Like, Jesus, I'm that person, you know?
I'm that person now everywhere I go.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you and me both, man.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's cool too. I mean, kind of, my other ones are mentioning this too, but I feel like my friends have kind of a running joke about me is when I go to concerts, I would say about 45 times out of 50 when I go to a concert, it's like pretty stone sober. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, my friends always kind of laugh. It's just like, Polly will be the soberest one there, but he'll be the first one to wander off and just do his own thing. And so I feel like we always kind of had that in common, but that's how we kind of wind up in the front row. I saw Modest Yahoo 2-3 summers ago. I caught a drumstick, first of all. Freaking awesome.
Stop it. Amazing.
Second of all, he had like this moment where like these people had like passes on the side of the stage to like join him for like one day, that song.
Okay.
And these two girls were asking the security guard, and the two girls were very pretty. We're asking the security guard like, hey, can we go up? And the security guard finally like caves and says like, yeah. And I said to myself like, oh, forget that. Like, I'm not letting this pass me by. And so I ran up on stage too. So I got briefly kicked out of that venue.
I remember that story.
It was tremendous. Because I still have my drumstick, I'm like waving it, you know, and what I love about it is there was one security guard. My mistake is I didn't want anyone to think I was a threat, so I stayed away from Modest. Like, I just got on stage and I stood there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like dancing, but I just stood there. I didn't want anyone. I looked over and I see one security guard is just like, all right, buddy, let's go. And then the other security guard is like, I'm gonna kill you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, okay, nope, I'm leaving. And so I got briefly kicked out of that venue, but then they did let me back
I
in.
take my job really seriously.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. But
I would have loved to have seen you being plucked off the stage. I'd be like, that's my friend. Leave him alone. Leave him alone.
I'm holding
leave Brittany alone.
Yeah, it was a special time, man. It was a special time. Any memories? I didn't want to jump right into my story. I'm sorry about that. Any memories of that high school Modest Yahoo show when we met him and all that?
Yeah, I remember being blown away by the Fullbots as well and being like, wow, I actually know like a few of their songs and now I like get it. They're great. But that Modest Yahoo show was so good. I, like you, had no expectations. And then we got to take a picture with him at the end. And that was like before he like broke his Hasidim.
Yeah.
Like being like that, like showing that Jewish like persona.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like we got to see him like OG Modest Yahoo,
Yeah, exactly. And OG us, indeed. I've seen the photo recently, believe me. Yeah. I also know another band we got to meet, actually a couple times, but the first time was especially cool, was Good Old War when we went to Lancaster to check them out.
Chameleon Club.
Yes, dude. Great little venue, man. When I lived in Lancaster, I was like right next door to it. It was cool. A few shows there, by all means.
I'm proud of us for like going out of our like radius to go find concerts when we were in York.
Yeah, no, we certainly did. I think you were a big instigator and proponent of that, but I was certainly always down for the ride. I remember vividly. One, the show was incredible because that. Say what you will, but at least I knew what Modest Yahoo was.
Right.
Like Cold War, I kind of didn't, and I had heard like the song "Window" and Coney Island to just kind of prep for the show, just so you're not like totally ignorant. But in my mind, I'm just like, oh wow, okay, the harmonies are great, but surely they don't sound like that live. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't.
Right.
I kind of tempered my expectations for that. And what I'll never forget is one, before we went into the venue, you had these extra Jello shots that were entirely too strong.
Typical.
It's not even like you felt them. You didn't. You know what I'm saying? But like the taste just lingered in your mouth forever. Boy, oh boy, I'll never forget those, man. It was just,
oh my
God. It's been more than a decade, and that's still the first thought that comes to mind when I think of that night. But
probably like Bankers Club vodka.
Yeah, probably. That sounds actually familiar. And it was one of those things where we're sitting in the car, and I don't know who else is with us. I feel like it wasn't just you and me. But
I don't remember who came with us.
Who's that?
Maybe it was Daniel or Corey or Steve?
Yeah. One of
All
them.
of them or none of them? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I know you were there.
But that sounds like the crew. But I remember we're sitting in the car before the show, and we're talking, and it's just like we can't leave the Jello shots. Like if we leave the Jello shots, by the time we come back, they're gonna be ruined. And so like everybody is like wolfing down these like super strong Jello shots because like if we don't eat them now, they're not going to be there for us later. And it's just like, oh, these are so strong. Oh, I'll never. And as soon as
I'll do it if you do it.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you finished one, there was another gosh darn one in your hand, and it's just like, all right, guys, 4 more. And it's like,
It's like the last Jello shot you ever want to have in your life.
Oh man, it was something, man. It was a good team building exercise.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But then they play this show, and it's really just tremendous. And the Chameleon Club is a cool little it's kind of a smaller venue. It's kind of built up instead of built out. You know what I'm saying? So kind of
Mhm.
all of their harmonies just kind of rose up to you, and rather than get lost in kind of a sea of people. It was really kind of very cool in that vibe. And then lo and behold, when they finished their show, Diane just takes a walk over, leans over the balcony, and says like, "Hey guys, like, you want to meet outside?" And they're just like, "Yeah, okay, we'll meet outside." And so we wound up. Unfortunately, we had no more Jello shots for them, but we wound up hanging out in the parking garage with the members of Good Old War, man, and we had a nice little time.
I'm sure we did.
Yeah, it was great stuff. And then we saw them again very recently. I would say no more than 2
like,
years ago.
Brooklyn, probably.
Yeah, some record place.
Oh yes, Rough Trade.
Yeah, exactly. And because Diane and I are of the same mind in terms of concerts, we really are actually. We make our way to the front row, no problem. We find our way,
Mm-hmm,
and
right.
we get a nice shot of You Won't plays, and I'd listen to You Won't serially. You Won't opens up for them.
Oh
Rock,
yeah, you won't. They were great.
yeah.
I bought their CD that day.
What's that?
I remember I bought their CD.
Yeah. Oh no, so did I. And then I met them both, and actually I spent a good amount of time talking to Rocky, more of the percussionist, the guy who was playing pretty much everything. And
Right.
their set list, which is still hanging up in my room at my parents' house. It's not here, but it's still definitely hanging up. Yeah, man, that was a treasured time. And then Good Old War themselves, they wind up playing in the middle of the venue. Man, just incredible stuff.
I loved that. And they were like the perfect like opener because they were just as like, like their wow factor just as much. Like when I think his name was Dan, the guy in Good Old War, I think Daniel or Dan, he like had that double neck guitar that he just like pulled out. It's just like both of them had such a great wow factor. It was just like amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember I took videos of that show on my phone or my phone or even maybe my digital camera. I don't think it was that long ago, but I think it was on my phone. We were so close that my phone was so close and it was like past the speaker. So the sound sucked on every one of my videos.
Yeah, exactly. No, we were pretty much kissing the stage, man. It was that close, and man, a tremendous.
Right.
Like I said, Good Old War wound up playing right in the middle, and
I love
kind of cool, intimate venues, and it was nice to meet everybody after that again. Man, just a great time. And then last but not least, we saw the Deer Hunter together. That was a cool one.
Hunter.
Always near and dear. What number album are they up to? Is it still at 5?
So I'm pretty sure they're at 5. If I say they're at 6, I think I will be very wrong. I'm actually gonna look real quick because
please. The last one I listened to was 5. If I'm being honest, the last one I bought is 4, but the last one I listened to was 5.
Yeah, so it was 5, and then he just came out with this other album called The Fox and the Hunt, and it's like kind of just like the orchestral sounds of the album. I love the Deer Hunter so much. I try to see them every time they're around. They are just they have such a great sound too. And the lead singer who like runs the show, he doesn't even know how to read music and he wrote everything.
Wow. Yeah, and they have like a comic book with what they do, right?
Yeah, it's not affiliated with their stuff. Like a fan made it.
Oh, okay.
So it's like made by fans.
Wow.
They have like a podcast, like fans that they have a podcast and they just like dissect their music lyric by lyric, like, because it's the story. And that's another band that I'm so glad you know them and like them as well, because there's a lot of music I listen to that I can't be like, oh my God, I love the Deer Hunter, give them a listen, because it's like a whole story. I want to know what to give someone to listen to. I've been told, like, why are you listening to Christian rock? Or like, I'm like, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what it is too? It's like, as much as, in my opinion, it's a detriment for a group to sound too much like themselves all the time, like to always sound the same. The Deer Hunter is also one of those albums where, like, for better or worse, like, that album is going to give you like kind of 8 different sounds at once, and that can make it hard for people to want to invest in it because they'll hear one thing they love and another thing they don't. Matter of fact, I remember, not that this is terribly interesting, but I remember distinctly, I can't remember the name of the song, but I was driving with my mom, probably to York, if I'm being honest, and they had this song where you could hear the fingers move on the guitar, so it just kind of made that.
Yeah. I know the sound.
My mom was like, I can't listen to this, and I'm just like, oh, okay, and like, and we switched it up real quick. But then
you're like Beatles. I'll make up for that. What about our car rides?
Oh man, I'm glad you brought that up. Diane was always very kind. For breaks and where it's appropriate, she would take myself and my dear friend Steve, who we all know and love, back to Long Island. She'd take us back to Belmore, where she was, and then my mom would make the trip out there, take us home, or Steve's mom, to be fair, always switched up. Those car rides were always special, always dynamic, always had, sometimes had some special guests. You know, Daniel was popping home for a holiday weekend or something like that. Diane was always very kind to take us to and fro whenever she could.
Remember when Danny was screaming at me? I forgot what it was.
Oh, dude, that is 100% the story I have underlined to like close the I'm so glad you remember it, because it is.
How could I forget?
It is something that Steve and I still bring up to this day as just like something to make the other laugh. Diane is kind enough to take, for all I know, it might have been everybody's first try. I don't know. I know it was my first time at Sonic.
Oh, it was mine too.
Yeah.
We didn't have that here.
I think everybody was trying Sonic for the first time. And so Diane pulls off, and it's me, Dan, Steve, and of course Diane. And we enjoy our Sonic. And I'm all about Sonic because I'm eating meat at the time. And what I love about Sonic is they throw jalapenos on the burgers. So I'm like, yeah, man, I want that spicy burger. You know, like I was all about it. I was in. Anyway, the Sonic enjoying goes fine. And then we go to get back on the road. And there's kind of a very literal fork in the road that says like east west, you know, which way you want to go. And Dad goes, you're gonna want to go left, Dion. And Diane goes, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but Diane's like, no, I think I want to go right. And Dad goes, no, like left is the way to go. And this whole time we're driving, and you're just like, Danny, I'm not sure. And Danny goes, left, Dion. Dion, go left. And then it winds up escalating to the point where I swear to God, it's just like, left, Dion, left. Like as we go right. And I swear to God, I don't think Steve and I said a word until we actually got back to like York. Man, like I think I gotta believe that like 45 minutes went by with just Steve and I being quiet, and then like you and Dan.
Like, what do we do? Should we say that was good? Like, we had epic car rides.
Epic car rides.
Like, what about that game? When I had all that music in my iPod at the time, because I was pirating everything.
Right.
I had like every discography of everything.
Yeah, so we would just kind of have a theme like rain or something that everybody would pick a song and we'd kind of pass it around. We'd go by the alphabet.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was cool little vibes. I do remember one time too. It was probably, I got to imagine. What's weird is I think it's the only time you made it a point to say that like the person in the passenger seat had to be like the right hand.
Okay.
And then I wound up being in the passenger seat and like I fell asleep in like 10 minutes. And
You don't deserve the front seat. You can't even stay awake.
baby boy, I'm telling you. And I'd been in the front seat when Diane didn't say anything, and I'd been up the whole time and watching. But like the one time she says like, "Hey, it's important for the guy in the front seat to be awake," is the one time that I'm just like.
I remember that actually. I remember like looking over and seeing it like this, like, are you awake? No, you're not, are you?
And Steve's probably just like, I could be in the front if you want. Yeah. Oh man,
You
tremendous.
guys were always great. You'd be like, I don't have that much stuff. I'm like, okay, guys, but there's like no room. You can't bring anything else. Like seriously. And you guys show up with like a bag like this big.
Yeah.
Like you're like, no, we got everything. I'm like, how? How do you have everything? You have one backpack.
Hey, when you say there's no room, we do what we can, man. We're considerate like that. As long as I'm awake, I'm a considerate guy. Yeah.
Amazing.
Man. Diane, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss before we call it quits today?
Well, actually, I did write something down.
Please.
I wrote about, remember the Jason Mraz concert that we drove to?
Oh, yeah, that was in Scranton. Yeah.
Yes. And we were like, oh, it's in Pennsylvania. It's close. Then, like, the day of the concert, we see it's like 8 hours away or something.
It was rough. It was maybe not 8, but it was not up the road, man.
It
Yeah.
wasn't up the road.
Yeah.
And I remember being outside, like, after the concert. Oh, because we were with our Rhapsody people, and anywhere we were, we would try to, like, sing a song.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we would try to, like, we would be at a party all together and be like, okay, everyone, let's sing Wannabe. No one ever had that. I always wanted that. But it would be like, we'd be like, all right, guys, let's get together and sing Ants Marching or something.
Right.
And we never did ourselves justice. So I think outside of that Jason Mraz concert, we were standing there trying to like be like, funny hats, let's sing a song.
Yeah. And we had there was that woman, her name was Jill, I remember, who like just kind of took a shine to us. And there are still photos from that night of just like her like there with us, and it's just like, you know, like, all right, lady, like I guess you could be in. And no, I remember that being a cool venue. It had all the vines on the side, which I thought was cool. I hadn't really seen.
Yeah, I had never been to a place like that.
It was a theater, and the ushers. I don't want
the
to
theater district.
They kept saying like you can't dance, and then finally Jason was like, "Why is nobody dancing?" And you know, they just said they can't let us. And then finally Jason said it was cool, and so we cut loose. And I mean, to me, that was peak Jason Mraz too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've listened to some albums since, and it's still tremendous. You know what I'm saying? It really is. But like, that was the real kind of crescendo. And I always say all the time, like a lightning in the bottle kind of album. And that was certainly it, man. That we sing, we dance, we steal things. And
that was a great album.
To be able to see that live with the horn section and everything. Plus, that was a good group. That was you, me, Charnel. Yeah, man, that was an eclectic.
That was great.
Yeah.
And we've had some great times, and I can't wait to go to another concert when this is all over.
Yeah, man.
Maybe I'll
doing that soon.
I'll trick you into coming to see a DJ with me.
No doubt. That would be cool. If I bring some earplugs just in case. I see your Instagrams and things like that. And my first thought is just like that seems like a lot of sensory stuff going on, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I started like I used to love going to see like, all my rock bands and stuff, but the crowd just like they're very, don't step on like in my space. No one ever is dancing really.
Yeah.
But no, I always wear earplugs. I've like bought friends earplugs for like birthdays and stuff because after going to these shows and you come home and your ears are ringing,
Yeah.
I want to be able to go to another show. But yeah, so now I go to a lot more like stuff where you can totally dance and no one's going to be like, you're stepping on my toe. Move over now.
No, that's good to know.
I
Absolutely.
would love it. I'll make sure I bring an extra pair of earplugs just in case.
Beautiful. Here's my question for you, and for all I know you have, but I know that we haven't done it together. Have you ever seen Fish?
I have.
Oh, good. Okay, right on. Well,
But I'll go with you anytime.
yes. Okay. Well, no, we got to do both. But you talk about a good crowd mob mentality. Fish is the place to be for that as well. So good. Right on. We'll be doing both of those very soon, as we can.
Definitely.
All right, Diane. Thank you so much for stopping on. I know I'm going to see you soon, but by all means, thank you for everything you've done for me. Such a pleasure to go ahead and sit down and speak with you for a little while. Certainly, you mean a lot to me, and I appreciate it.
This means a lot. You mean a lot. I'm so glad we got to connect.
Yeah. All right. Ears of Corn, thank you for joining me on the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. This has been Diane. I have been Tom. Polly, whatever part of my life you know me from.
Bye.
Have a great one. POY.
Bye.